Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wasallam. Nawat ta'allum wa ta'alim wal mudzakkar wa tadhkir wa nafa wa indifa wa nifada wal istifadah wal hatta tamassuki bi kitabillahi wa sunnati rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam wa du'a ila al huda wa dalala ala al khair ibtigha wajhillah wa mardati wa qurbi thawabi subhanahu wa ta'ala ma'a lutfin wa afiyatin bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma inna nas'aluka 'ilman yadri wa mashraba safi hani bi ghani. Allahumma inna nas'aluka 'ilman yadri wa mashraba safi hani bi ghani. Allahumma inna nas'aluka 'ilman yadri wa mashraba safi hani bi ghani. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wasallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Tamam. Okay, so we'll begin. Right, so we're on our second from the book min kitab maqasid halaqat at-ta'lim wa wasailuha للحبيب العارف بالله حبيب عمر بن حفيظ نفعنا به وبعلومه في الدار إلى أن قال. Right, so from the book مقاصد حلقات, the aims and objectives of secret knowledge, right, by the great scholar and knower of Allah Habib Umar bin Hafiz, right, may we be benefited by him and by his knowledge in both abodes, to where he has said. Alright, so here, right, we went into it previously, right, so we spoke about, so just a revision, quick revision on the four objectives of secret knowledge, right? So the first one is to instill an aggrandization and awe for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all that Allah has made great, right? All that Allah has made great. The second objective is the imparting of knowledge itself, right? So the first one is all about creating an awesomeness in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, creating a feeling, right, of aggrandization and awesomeness and awe in the student. That's the first thing, and that one cannot be undervalued or underestimated in any way, right? That's the most important thing in teaching a student, right? That this is the point, right? That they learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And then they are in love and in awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through their knowledge, right? If knowledge cannot bring them to this, then they have missed the point of knowledge, right? They actually completely missed the point of knowledge. The second one is in fact the imparting of knowledge itself, and that is where we are at, right? The third point is suluk, right? Suluk meaning their character, their etiquette, right? How they are as a human being, because that is very much part of knowledge. And there is no point if someone is highly knowledgeable in the sciences, right, but they have completely no regard for the people who are around them, right? There is no point in that person, and in fact his knowledge could be against him on a day of judgment, right? So we don't care about geniuses, right? In Islam, it doesn't matter to us if someone is genius or someone is smart. Doesn't matter, right? As long as what is stronger in Allah's side is that he's a good human being. Right, that is more important, and we know that many of the disbelievers in time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, they were of very high intellects, right? Walid bin Mughira, he was very, he was known to be the wise man of Mecca, right? He was respected for his intellect, right? But his intellect could not bring him, right, to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? His intellect, his intellect did not benefit him at all. Right, and that's in our society whereby intellect is aggrandized, intellect is not supposed to be aggrandized. Right, what is aggrandized is basically the light, right, that enters a person's heart, that makes him a good servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that makes him a good person in society. Right, that is what is being aggrandized, right, in this religion. Right, so and the last one, right, the last purpose of secret knowledge is to empower, right, others to do the same. That means to go out and spread this, the first three. So the last one is basically to make everybody else who is listening in to go out and do the first three to other people, right? So that it's not that it's kept within a circle, right? But it spreads. So it can encompass the entire of society, and from there you have society being rectified, and from there you have flourishing, right, in human society. Right, so it's something that is from something that is small, that it expands, right? So the first thing, so Habib, we went through last week, right? That Habib, the first thing that he said about on the second point, on imparting knowledge itself, right? And when he arranged knowledge, right, he arranged them with the Quran being first. Right, as seen in the book, the Quran is the first knowledge that you impart onto your students. The first thing onto your children, the first thing you give them is the Quran, right? And the Quran, he gave 5 parts, right? 5 different knowledges to do with the Quran, not just one. Right, so the first one is memorization, the second one is reading, the third is tajweed, right? Also the rules of recitation. The fourth is tafsir, that means knowing the contents. It is very important for us to know the contents of the Quran. And then the last is the sciences in the Quran, because there's content is one thing, right? And then there are sciences. So for example, of the sciences in Quran, you have fiqh, right? You can have the rulings in the Quran. All the sciences in the Quran, there is language, there are many sciences in the Quran that you can actually delve into, right? But Habib is saying that these are the 5 sciences of the Quran, right? The meaning of the Quran is very important for us to actually completely get ourselves into, right? Because from a hadith about Rasulullah SAW said that, right, towards the end of time there will be darknesses after darknesses, right? And the only way out is the Book of Allah, right? The only way to save yourself, right, towards the end of time, when you see tribulation, and when you see all kinds of terrible things happening to people in their faith, the only way out is the Book of Allah, right? And yesterday, and for me this week, I'm preparing for a talk we're going to do this weekend, right? Answering the unanswered, right? Whereby people send in questions about Allah, about decree, about faith, right? And we're going to answer all these questions for them, right? Because what we're seeing in society right now, right, is that Muslims are leaving the faith, right? And why are they leaving the faith, right? First and foremost, they don't understand the faith. That's why they're leaving the faith, right? They have lived their lives not understanding Islam properly, Islam carefully. So I was talking to my mother yesterday, because she's part of the panel, right, in answering all these questions. So we're discussing right, myself, my cousin, my mother, we were discussing about this, what we are seeing right now in society of people leaving the religion, or basically they might not leave the religion, right, but they don't follow the religion whatsoever. So there's nothing in their life, right, that actually reflects their belief. Nothing, right? So from the way they dress, from the way they speak, from the way they conduct their lives from morning to evening, it's as if they don't believe there's a hereafter, and there's a day of judgment, right? So all of their interaction with people is as if you'll not be held to account, right? So even though they are born Muslims, right, they act as if there is no hereafter, there is no akhirah, there is no God who is watching over you and all that you do, as if, right? So I was just discussing with her, what is right now what we're seeing is a result, right? So when you see a disease, for example, and you see, like, for example, somebody has like rashes on their skin, right, or they have like things sprouting out, right, and you see the outward manifestation, right, of an inward imbalance, right, of an inward problem in the body. So when you go to traditional medicine, they will speak about this. They will say you don't just you don't just treat the outward problem, right, but you go into the body, right, and you treat what is inside, right? And that is the problem with, basically, this is the problem with our society lah. That when we have something that is wrong with us, we treat the outward, right? So for example, you have a headache, right, straight away we take Panadol. Does that cure us? It does not. It does not cure, right? What it does is that it numbs the pain. The pain is still there. It's still there, right? But it numbs it, so we don't see the symptom anymore, right? We don't see the symptom, and we think that it's cured. It's not cured, right? So like I was talking to my mother, I was saying that, what we are seeing here of people leaving the faith, right, is a symptom, right, of a deeper disease, right? So us answering the question right now is just treating what is on the outward, on the surface, just treating the surface, right? But what is the inward issue? What's the problem in society that people cannot hold on to this faith? Right? Because everything in the faith is perfect, right? And the more you study, the more you see that it is perfect. So I was asking her, like, what do you think? Right? Because right now we're answering questions, right? And we can do this over and over again, right? But all you are doing is just addressing what is superficial, and we know we're just addressing what is on the surface, just to prevent them for a time being from leaving the faith, right? So it means it's just something that is superficial, a solution that is superficial, right? But there needs to be a deeper solution, right, to this, right? And I mean, her answer was one answer lah, basically, right? That the deep disease is rooted in the disconnect to the Quran. That's it. Our society is highly disconnected from the Quran. They don't know what's in the Quran. They don't know, right? A lot of the questions that they were sent in, all of the answers are found in Surah Fatiha. Just Surah Fatiha. I don't even have to go into the Quran. Surah Fatiha answered all of it, right? And we read Surah Fatiha every day, right? But we have no clue what Surah Fatiha is about. Right. No, it's like that. It's actually that that blatant and that simple in a way. Right. So, and that is something that says to be a revival lah, of connection to the Quran. Right. We need to bring people back to the Quran. Alright. So the first thing that he mentions here, right, on how to teach. So the first affair, right, that he goes into about the Quran is memorization. And here, this one, like for us, especially as parents who are teaching memorization, right, this one you need to really pay attention. Like how Habib is teaching us on how do you teach people to memorize. Right. So the first thing he says, right, awalan al-hifz. Awalan al-hifz. So the first thing, memorization. You can write if you want to write. أولا الحفظ طريقة الحفظ أن يكرر 5 آيات أو 10 أو 10 حتى يتم حفظها ثم يكررها بعد الحفظ 25 مرة على الأقل حفظا وإن بلغ بها 41 مرة كان أجود وأقوى للحفظ. This is the most important point when it comes to memorization. I can't even stress it even more. Right, for me also, like when I do this, like your memorization is very clear, right, and you will not forget. Right, so the first thing he says, right, the first method of memorization is to repeat, to make them physically repeat the verses, and also check how they are pronouncing. Don't let them repeat stuff that's wrong. Check. Right, so like today, like Surah Bayina, right, a few of them kept saying muflisina lahuddin. Right, it's not, muflisin means bankrupt. So I kept saying, I will always stop them there. Mukhlisina, aina kha. Right, so the parent pay attention. What are they saying? Right, and a lot, especially for children, they will mix up ba and mim. Right, what is ba, they'll make mim. What is mim, they'll make ba. Right, and then nun and mim also mix up. Everyone mix up lah, basically. Right, so it's actually the teacher, right, if she's able to do one by one is better. But if she's not able to, then the parent. Right, you need to watch and look at their lips. Right, don't just hear them, look at the lips. Right, see what the lips is saying exactly. Right, because a nun, right, the lips will not be together. Right, there are a few times I've seen them say letter nun, but their lips are together. They're saying mim. They're not saying nun. It sounds like nun. It's not nun. It's mim. Right, so look at their lips. Right, look at their lips and observe what letter they are pronouncing. This is very important when it comes to memorization. Right, so what he's saying here, right, the method to memorize is to take 5 verses. Right, if you think 5 is too much for them, then 3. Okay, whichever. Right, 3, 5, or 10. Right, on that account. Take a few, meaning take a few. Make them repeat it over and over again with you together until you see that they have memorized it. Until you see they have memorized it. After they have memorized it, you listen to them say it over and over and over again 25 times at least. 25 at least, it from memory. So that means one time memory is not good enough. 25 times the same thing over and over again. If you can, 41 times. And that is the fastest way to memorize. And I tell you one thing, if you find that they are always stuck at a particular verse, or same verse, they always stuck. For them in this class, it is always after وَذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمَةِ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. That part always stuck. And after that, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ شَرُّ الْبَرِيَّةِ جَزَاؤُهُمْ La. Syarrul bariyah kaifa jazaa'um inda rabbihim jannatul adnin. How can the worst of people, their reward in their Lord, with their Lord is the gardens of paradise. Right, but they jump because it sounds the same. Ulaika hum syarrul bariyah. Second one, ulaika hum khairul bariyah, the best of them. For them is paradise. Not for the other one. So you find that they always stuck here. Right? So that one you focus, make them repeat it together. Not one by one, together. So that means you start from not innal ladzina kafaru, before that, because they always start innal ladzina kafaru. So you start from wama umiru innal ladzina kafaru ladzina amanu. 3 verses. Okay, 3 verses. You make them repeat this 41 times. 41 times, even if they say they have memorized, even if it's spread out over a few days, at least 41 times eventually. Right, 41 times by memory, this will smoothen out this part. right? That way, or of course, is the best way lah. But or if they can understand the verses, then by understanding. Right? So for me, for now, I can't read them 41 times. So I'm trying to do visual. Right? So innal ladina kafaru, innal ladina amanu. Right? You cannot jump from kafaru into jazauhum. Right? So make sure to do that. And for any surah, right, that you find that they always stuck at one verse, take the two verses, make them read both of them together, and for 41 times. Right? Then that will, instead you're combing it out. Right? There is a tangle there. You're combing out the tangle. Right? So you're focused on that one part. Right? So like for that, some of them they are very confused at see lah where they always get stuck. You guys just see where they always get stuck. Right? And make sure they comb it out nicely. Right? Especially all the ayats that are similar. Right? Don't let them jump from ayat to ayat. Alright. So this one number one. If you can hold on to this, it will do wonders for their memorization. For your own also lah. Right? And this is for the student who is memorizing. So if you are trying to memorize, you yourself need to do it 25 times by memory. So don't think you do it 3 times, 5 times, and I have memorized. No. Right? That is your short-term memory. You want to bring it to your long-term memory. Alright? So we would do this like in memorization schools. They will do this. All of them will have a chart, and they will actually tick. Right? So there's 41 boxes. Right? Under every like four ayats or 5 ayats, there's like 41 boxes. So every time you read it from memory, you tick. Read it from memory, you tick. Okay? Alright? Okay. You have to do it one shot. Especially for kids, they get very bored. Like even for me, to sit there and to do, because I'll take a tasbih and I always do it. Right? 41, try and do it 41 times. After 10 times, I get very tired. Because I'm doing like half page each time. So half page 10 times is like, it's basically half page for 10 times, it's like 5 pages. It's just a quarter of a juice. You know, in a way, if you think of it that way lah. Right? So if you're doing it 41 times, half a page, it's about 20 pages, about one juice. So it will take me a good hour to sit there and do it 41 times, that kind of thing. Right? So, Allahu Alam. Right? But you can spread it out. Right? You can spread it out, but make sure it's done from memory. And this 25 to 41 times, it is 25 times without prompting. For as long as they're being prompted, they have not started number 1 yet. The first to the 25th cannot be prompting, no prompting. Right? That means 25 times without prompting. Okay. This is how they memorize. This is how they memorize. Very strong. Very strong. For as long as they are prompting, it means they have not memorized.
So you're saying this one is between like 5 verses or 3 verses. It's not
Yes.
one verse.
No. You have to link it up. Right? This is what will cure them always get stuck. Them always getting stuck at particular verses. Right? That you comb it out. Right? If you stick to one verse, they will memorize that one verse, but they will not know what's before and what's after. And they'll get stuck at every single verse, and that's not the point of memorization. Right? The point is to know verse after verse, and in fact, as they memorize longer and longer surahs, it's going to be page after page. So this page connects to this page, that kind of thing. Right? So that's what I was saying that time in my message. Right? There are stages when it comes to memorization. There is full ayat memorization. All this full ayat memorization happens before you count for 25. 25 is 25 full 4 verses, for example, without mistake. That's 25. If you can lah. Right? If you find it hard, then just do whatever you can. Okay? That's why when you look at what they say, they are serious when it comes to memorization. Yeah, Al-Bayyinah is hard. Yeah, so at least you can take 2 ayats at the same time. Right? 2 ayats, but don't take it 1. Right? Because, and especially where it repeats. Because the word Bayyinah appears twice in Surah Bayyinah. ذلك دين القيمة هذا. The first ayat is Bayyinah, and then the third ayat. There's fourth ayat. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ وَيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمَةِ. Oh, but I think they always mix that one with the Bayyinah one. Right? They always mix that one in the Bayyinah because they will always go into they will go in Lam Yakinil. Yeah, they go in Lam Yakinil because I think that they're mixing the sound. It's not even the same word, the same sound. Right? But they will get stuck there. Then they will not know that the next one is Innal Ladina Kafaru. Right? So Surah Bayyinah, but Surah Bayyinah is just the beginning. You move further on. Right, and then as the Quran goes further on, there is ayat that's exactly the same in different parts of the Quran. So you can jump from one surah to another surah, right, jump back and forth right, between surahs. Right, so these are all cured. It is all cured by the first method of memorization. It takes a lot of time. It takes I'll be very honest with you. It takes a lot of time, but it is necessary if you want them to memorize. If you don't really want to push them, then you wait until they're old enough to push themselves. Right? You push them for what is necessary until Surah Duha if you want, Juz Amma if you want. Right? The Fadail al-Surah, the repeated surahs. Thereafter, it's up to you, or you can leave it up to them. Right? Because all of these things are, you will be held responsible. You will be held responsible for what you have memorized. Alright. Okay, number 2. Man lam yattaqin at-tilawa yalzim an yatlu ma yuridu hifdhihi qabla an yatahaffadhahu hatta yuhsinu ada'ahu ala yad mumakkina min muallim aw talib qawi al-qira'ah. Right, so he says here that whosoever does not perfect his recitation, right, or pronunciation, and he's not good at reciting or pronouncing, then he has to read the verse that he wants to memorize with a teacher. The teacher needs to watch, right, and see what he is memorizing. So don't just let them memorize by themselves, right, but you need to check what are they memorizing. Right, so they don't memorize the wrong thing and then you have to correct it. It's more difficult. Right, they keep saying the wrong thing and you can't correct it. No. For now, so things that I have noticed right, in the circle, the letter za. Right, it's always za. It's not za. It's za. You must insist in seeing their tongue coming up. So innal ladhina, the tongue needs to come out. Kafaru. But at this age, okay. At this age, there are some letters they will probably not be able to pronounce yet. Of course, below the age of 7. So just take note what letters they are still like pelat They can't pronounce it properly. Right? But as they grow past the age of 7, they should be pronouncing things properly. Right? So the ra, the kha needs to be coming out. The a. And for now, I'm just closing one eye on all of these letters, right? Because it's hard to even explain to them where it is. Right? So the ain, the ghain, the kha, the ha. Ha also needs to be pronounced. Ba, so all of these ones are all of them. Because right now they're doing everything the same. Right? So past the age of 7, you begin to notice how they are pronouncing. And make sure they don't grow up saying all these things, especially Surah Fatiha. Surah Fatiha needs to be pronounced correctly. So check the Surah Fatiha age of 7, age of 10, check again, age of 12, check again. Right, they're pronouncing things properly. Alright. And if you're not so sure on the pronunciation, get a teacher. Right. So someone who is, I would really recommend teachers that study in Syria, because Syria really they are experts at the Quranic pronunciation. Syria, those who have studied in Syria. Right. So Tarizi Halaqah teachers from Syria. Right. So they're very good. They're very good with the Quran. Makhraj al-huruf. How to pronounce the letters. Right. So if you want, you can find where they are. I have a lot of friends who have ijazah sanad from Syria. Right. So they will correct how you pronounce your letters. Right. Okay. So far okay. Okay. Number 3. Right. Memorization is not complete. Say لا يقبل منهم الحفظ إلا مع إحسان التلاوة ورفع الصوت وإيضاح الحروف. Alright, this is being strict on the older ones. I think younger ones, for now, we're encouraging them. Like for the older ones, right, especially for a teacher who is listening to memorization is not complete. And here actually in the Arabic, it means it is not accepted. You don't accept their memorization, right, for as long as in Arabic, for as long as they do not perfect their recitation, nor do they raise their voice, nor do they clearly pronounce every letter. Right? For as long as this is not given to you, you don't accept the memorization, they're not allowed to go on to the next page. Okay, this is for older age, right? So right now, if they have memorized an amount, after the age of 7, re-memorize properly. Make sure they give you these 3 things. First thing, reciting properly, right? Audibly. It means you must hear it clearly, loudly, and every letter needs to be given its right. Every letter needs to be pronounced. So no swallowing of letters, no mumbling, right? No bashing through letters, right? Basically. Right? So every letter in the Quran needs to be pronounced and given its right. This is after the age of 7. After the age of 7, of course, if you can do it before age of 7, then that's fantastic, right? But before the age of 7 is the most impossible, right? To actually force this on them, right? Then don't discourage, right? But after the age of 7, re-memorize. Right? Before, don't leave this till they're older, right? Then it's difficult for them to actually go back, right? So at 7, again, because this one requires explanation on where the letters come from and what I want from you. I want a loud voice. I want clear letters. I want to see your mouth open. Right? These are all how we are being taught when we were studying, when we were memorizing Quran. They teach us like this. You need to open your mouth. Don't mumble in front of me. That kind of thing. But be nice about it. Okay? Right? Don't be fierce. Right? Be nice about it. But firm. Firm in Quran memorization. You can try to. It's okay, he's 3. He'll find his L someday. Someday he'll find his L. Yes, Abdul Qadir. Your name got L somewhere, Abdul Qadir. Yeah. So yeah, but it's after 7. They should not still be penat at 7. If they're still, then there's an issue. You have to actually speech therapy, something like, should not be there at age 7, right? But if they are, then you really, it's a concern. It is a concern. If they're at 7, they can't pronounce some letters. Right, go and unless their teeth falling out lah, then that's the issue. Right, got age 7, their teeth falling out.
It's a problem, you know.
When the teeth come back, 6. Yeah, they fall out. So by 7, at least the front teeth should be there. By 7, hopefully. Actually, they can't say. On the
teeth. Without the teeth, very good.
on the gums, they can't do it. No, that I know. Okay, but make sure you see the tongue lah. So that the habit of sticking out the tongue during sa, make it a habit that they stick out their tongue. Right, so at least when the teeth come, at least their tongue is being stuck out, right, for these letters. Okay, pronunciation. Alright. So now here number 4, right? He says here, يبدأ مع الصغار بإتقان الفاتحة وقصائر السور فيقرر عليهم كل يوم سورة أو سورتين يرددونها حتى يتم حفظها تماما ويستمعها منهم اليوم الثاني وبعد استماع الحفظ الجديد يستمعهم فيما قد حفظوا من قبل وتقبل الزيادة من قوي الحفظ بشرط صحة النطق وجود الحفظ. نعم, وجود الحفظ. Right, so here he says that you begin with the small ones, right? So now age 3, 4, 5, 6, right? The small ones, start them off with Fatiha, right? Don't be so ambitious too young, unless, like what I'm saying here, unless their pronunciation is good. If their pronunciation is not good, don't give them so much, right? Because what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to correct it when they grow older, right? And that is even more difficult because their tongue is so used to saying it wrong, right? So before the age of 7, right, give them, he's saying here, give them Fatiha. This Habib, right? So don't argue with me. Okay, Habib is saying this, right? And Habib, he recites the Quran twice by memory in every Ramadan, So, and he memorized the Quran. Habib memorized the Quran in 3 months. Right, so right, with Habib Sa'ad, he memorized the Quran with Habib Sa'ad in 3 months. Right. So he knows what he's talking about. Okay, he knows what he's talking about. In his teenage years. That's why the people of that of Tarim, they don't force people into memorization, because they know that it is a weight to be carried. It is an amana, it's a trust, and they will be questioned if they don't keep up with the revision. Because the moment you don't revise Quran leaves you very fast. And so even my cousin, she memorized when she was 15. She finished memorizing when she was 15. Till today she's 29. Right? Every day they have to revise. Every day. It's a lifelong commitment. The moment you memorize an ayat, it's a lifelong commitment. It is bound to you for life. Right? And the moment you stop with a revision, it will leave you. And then you will fall into sin. Right? So for them, they don't, and I know of even parents, Syrian parents, right, that both parents are people who memorize the Quran and a very strong memorization. They don't push their kids into it, but they let it come from them. I mean, the house is a house of Quran. Let it come from them to decide if they want to get into this. Right? Then you encourage. If they want to drop out. Right? But whatever you have memorized, you must revise. Right? So that's why even Habib in his teenage years, right, he memorized. Right? So a lot of them, the Habib, no, she does not memorize Quran, because for them they memorize it by reading a lot, right? But not properly memorization, right? But her daughter, Suza Aisha, she memorized, right? But she in her adult age, that means after she got married, everything she memorized, right? So like, so even Habib didn't even force his kids on memorization, right? He let them choose if they want to take this path. They are allowed to take the path, right? But
You recommend that we memorize only after PSLE, right?
I would say before age of 7, or after 7 or whatever, you encourage them on what Habib is saying, on Fatiha, on the short surahs, right? I would actually say until Surah Duha, right? And then move into surahs that are often recited. Surah Yasin, Waqi'ah, if you want Sajda, Rahman. Like if you want, like, you see which one are the ones. So if I start Surah Yasin is the most important. Surah Yasin. And then Surah Muluk is short enough. And Surah Waqi'ah, these 3. Right? If you see that they're doing it every day as part of their daily recitations, because there are 3 that you read every day, then you can ask them by this time, because they should be 7 by this time, to understand, do they want more? If they want more, you can give them Surah Dukhan, Surah Sajda. These are all things to be recited daily. Right? Or Surah Kahfi if you want. Right? And then if they still want more, if they have a tasting for it or they have a liking for it, then you allow them to enter into Surah Baqarah. Right? Or you finish just up to you lah. Up to you. Right? But there needs to be a teacher that follows up. So they can't be doing it by themselves. If you are not a teacher who's following up every single day, dedicating time to this, then get a proper tahfiz school. It has to be proper. Right? They have to be sent to someone daily to follow up with them and to teach them how to follow up and memorize their revision, right? So it can't be like free range. It cannot. Okay, it's very, very important because like for me also. But make sure the first part is okay. Right? Don't let them just go on because you are in some race. I'm not so sure what race. Right? It's not a race. Right? It is an amanah. It's a responsibility. Right? So don't be so zealous, being overzealous about it, right? And don't compare anybody, right? Because you might be doing them a disfavor by putting them in something that they are not ready for. Right? Yeah. So Habib says here that you teach them the Fatiha first, and then the short surahs of the Quran, right? And then he says that you should repeat to them 1 or 2 chapters every day. Chapters meaning surahs, right? Not full juice, like 1 or 2 surahs every day, and listen to them the next day, right? So that means this is called spatial memorization, right? So whereby you memorize, stop, right? I will revisit it tomorrow. This strengthens memorization, right? Not to memorize everything in one go, right? But having spaces in between. That's what I'm doing with you all for the Arabic class, like spaces in between. And so I give you, on Monday, Tuesday stop. If you want, you can revise what happened on Monday, right? Wednesday again. If I do it every day, right, it will the mind will just block, right? It cannot take anything. But so the mind needs to be given rest. That is the best way whereby you study and you retain knowledge, right? That is the best way, right? Give rest. And memorization can tire the mind. There is a tiredness in the mind when you try to memorize too much. So for me, whenever I memorize and I feel my mind, there's a fatigue. It's a brain. Memorization is a brain pula. It's a muscle. It's a muscle. The brain is a muscle. Right? And it goes through fatigue. Right? So if you see them nothing going in, that means they're going through fatigue of memorization. Right? Pause. Let it rest by play. Play will rest the brain. Right? Play, chatter, just basically, talking. Right? This is something that will rest the muscles in the brain. It's like exercising. You exercise, then you have to stretch. Right? You have to hit it a bit, let it relax and warm up, and then you can do some more. Right? But if you keep doing it, you're gonna spoil it. Okay? So these are all like techniques. And memorization is a muscle. Right? The brain is a muscle. It needs to be trained. Right? If it's not trained, then it's difficult lah. Right? It needs to be trained slowly. Alright. So it says here that you begin with them with Fatiha and the short surahs, right? And you repeat it with them, right? Every day, right? One surah or two surahs, the short ones lah. He's talking about short ones, right? And then you repeat it with them until they memorize it properly, right? With the pronunciation and everything else. And then the next day you listen to it from them themselves, right? As mentioned, the whole surah, right? Try not to prompt. Right, and if there is prompting, then there needs to be the repeating again, right, between verses, right. It is not considered that they have memorized if they still require prompting. Right, for as long as they require prompting, that means they have not memorized, right, even between verses, right. So, and after you listen to it, then listen to what is before that, right, and what they actually recommend is that if you're going to listen to one surah that is new, listen to 5 that were old. Right, it means 1 new, 5 old, 1 new, 5 old. So as you go on to the newer ones, the 5 older ones, and that is what I'm doing with them for the hadith. Right, so for the hadith, I know they memorize already. All these hadiths. Abghadu rijal ilallahi, aladul khasam. I know they memorize already. Right, but what am I doing is that I'm making them doing it 41 times. That's what I'm doing. I'm making them do it 41 times from memory. Right, so every week every 2 weeks I bring in one hadith. Right, but they are doing 4 others of the old one. So 1 new one, 4 old one. So if it's every day 5 times a day, 5 times a week, right? And by the time I rotate out, right, they will have done it at least 25 times from memory. This keeps the hadith memorized, and even then they forgot the hadith that day. And even so 41 times, and I had to go do it 41 times. Right, so from memory they already know hadith. I know they know the hadith. I know. Right, but I'm making them do it 41 times. Right, so they memorize. So that's how you do it for the Quran. Right, so today read Surah Bayyinah, right, but at your own time lah with them. Okay, read the 5 before that, and make sure they memorize what the 5 are. Because even with the hadith, they memorize the sequence already. They know this hadith and this hadith and this, right? They memorize the sequence already. Make them memorize sequence. Right, so from before Bayyinah what? Right, what is before Bayyinah? Surah what? I'm asking you all. Surah Zalzala. Before Zalzala, Adiyat. Before Adiyat, Qari'ah. Before Qari'ah, Takasur. Before Takasur, we are not at Asr yet. We are at Asr yet? Before Takasur, Asr. Yes, Asr. And then, correct, Asr. And then Humazah. And then Feel. And then
Remembering the pitch.
Yeah.
you memorize by page. And then La. Quraysh, yes. Who did the field happen on the Quraysh? Right. And then Ma'un. And then Kausar. And then Kafirun. And then Nasr, Idha Ja'a. And then Masad. And then the tricles. Okay, make sure they memorize the sequence. Right, the sequences have to be memorized. Okay,
If we are beyond duha, it's better to start
Revise.
41 times.
Yeah.
Of the pre-
Yes,
of before
yes,
duha.
yes. Because like you all see yourselves that they have memorized but not memorized. Like they have memorized but not memorized. So you need to revisit it. Right? Make it firm. Right? And don't. It's not a race. It's really not a race. Don't push them to do it faster. Like what are you all racing against? Kan? Because like every letter you get the same pahala. It's not like you memorize more. You know, of course, you memorize more. There's the hadith about you reaching in paradise, right? But it is, you know, small deeds are more beloved to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala that they are consistent, right? Than large deeds and then they are forgotten, right? That is not. There's nothing in with Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala.
What about like, you know, the after duha, a lot of the surahs after duha in Juz Amma, they have a lot about the day of judgment and all, a lot of tafsir there that the kids that you can teach along when you memorize. So that one later on you can read like
You can just teach it.
without them memorizing it.
Yeah. Because I would teach them the story of Nabi Yusuf, but I won't make them memorize Surah Yusuf, right? Because Nabi Yusuf's story, her question is that some of the surahs after Surah Duha, it's very imagery.
Yes.
Very imagery in the surah how Allah describes the day of judgment, paradise and hellfire, right? So you want to teach them that surahs, right? But you don't want to enter into memorization of the surahs, which is fine. You can teach the surahs without memorizing the surahs. Of course, you know, it's better if you memorize and then you teach lah. But you know, don't stop that from you teaching the surahs. Like for example, I'll give you an example of Surah Yusuf. Is very nice. It's a very nice story, and you tell them Nabi Yusuf's story. They don't have to memorize Surah Yusuf. It's okay, right? You can tell them the story of Kahfi, right? You don't have to memorize Surah Kahfi, right? So you know, so the tafsir can be separate. The tafsir of it, and you teach them, right? The stories that are like Surah Baqarah story. I love the story of Surah Baqarah, right? Because I mean, and kids can understand, right? So Allah says, you know, go and slaughter a cow, or they came and asked all kinds of questions. These people, right? They ask, you know, what kind of cow? All the cows are the same to us. So Allah says, you know, not too old, not too young, right? So of course for kids you can engage. Right, what's the story about? Right, and then what kind of colour is the cow? Right, so as if you know all the cows are the same colour. And then he said, then Allah says, oh, yellow cow. Right, and yellow cow. Right, and still they ask one more question. Right, why must they ask so many questions? So Allah made it very difficult for them. Right, and the story is very interesting because the cow they found eventually belonged to an orphan. Right, and this orphan, right, his father passed away from when he was very young, and left behind for him inheritance. And the inheritance is this golden cow. So it was a calf when he was young, and the father told the mother, let this calf roam in the jungles. Right? Don't use it at all until my son is grown. Then tell him about his inheritance from me, which is this yellow calf. So the calf had no blemish. It had never worked before, right? And it was a perfect golden calf. Yellow cow. Yellow cow was a cow lah now, right? So eventually when they asked all these questions, right, eventually they found this cow which actually existed, right? Because the conditions were like the cow is not too old or not too young, there's no blemish, right? It's completely yellow, right? Yellow, okay. And it has never done any work in his lifetime. So that cow actually existed, right? And you know, they found the cow, and then now they had to buy the cow to complete the command, right? So what was the price of the cow? It's the only cow that fit the description. And for this orphan, right, and his father was someone who was righteous, right? So the price of the cow was the skin of the cow, fill it up with gold. That was the price of the cow, right? So that means, you know, the father left behind good inheritance for his orphan son. Right? So and then they sold the cow for that amount, and they had to pay it because they asked many questions. Right? So and it's the story, the cow stories that you can bring it to the children. Right, so you see how Allah arranged everything for the orphan boy, right? Because I mean, of course, and this for a later age, you can bring in the takdir also, qada and qadar. Right? Because Allah knew they were going to ask so many questions, but they still asked all these questions. Punishment also lah, right? But He knew all this was going to happen, so the cow was prepared already from before. It was prepared, right? And then the questions came, and then the answer came, and the cow was found, right? And then it all came into one in full circle, right? In a way. So from there, you can even understand qada and qadar. Like, you know, in that situation, that kind of thing. But it's, you know, stories are tell. It's the golden cow now, the crying camel. You know about the crying camel? Nah, they tell you about crying camel, okay? Huh? Yeah, the sad camel of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That one is not in the Quran. That one is in the Hadith.
They have an audio. It's called the sad camel.
The sad camel.
Miraj audio.
Yeah.
Ah.
Sorry.
the sad camel of Rasulullah SAW, the gazelle that promised, you know, the promising gazelle. So the gazelle that promised Rasulullah SAW that he will come back. Okay, there's a promising gazelle also. Alright, the lizard that came back to life and then spoke. So many, like you can actually like engage children, and all these things actually happen with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So many lah, so many. Right, so okay, we will pause there. Okay, number 4, because it's still at the. Wait, I'm just finish the point first. So you repeat to them and hear their new memorization, right? And you should revise their older work. And the older work is more than the new work, right? And usually what they will do is they will do the old one first and then the new one, right? To show priority is on the revision. Priority is not on taking new stuff. Priority is on the revision. So that for us in Darul Zahra, they will listen to us every day half a juz. If your half a juz is not proper, no new page for you. You make sure your half a juz is proper, then you get a new page to memorize, right? So like the girls will be lagging behind those who are forward, that kind of thing, right? So they always, you know, if you don't pass this benchmark, no new one for you, right? So in a way, like as they grow older lah. So if they so that really pushes them. If you really want to memorize the Quran, then you know, do it well, right? Do it proper, alright. But not without the tafsir. The tafsir is always there. Teach them the meanings of the Quran, right? So and then. And if somebody is capable, that means if you see that they're very strong in their memorization, then of course give them more. But of course always on the basis that their previous memorization are all good. Like in pronunciation, in all the tajweed, the mad, how long it is. So for me, even for Surah Bayyinah, I'm trying to make them have a habit, right, of lengthening where there is lengthening. Right, so وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا So that part, make sure that they're lengthening it. Right, it's not hard on them. Lengthen, right? There is a mad there, right? So make sure so that they memorize. There's automatically there's a mad, right? There's a lengthening there, right? Okay. And then for those who are weak, then you go by their pace, right? Don't make them take more than what they can handle, right? Okay, we'll pause there. Any questions? So the next point is what I've been saying lah, right? On how do you arrange this? Right, so you say one chapter, so juz amma, and then after that the 5 repeated surahs, juz 29, and the 5 repeated surahs, Kahf, Yasin, Sajdah, Dukhan, Waqi'ah. Right, you see that in the next point, right? How you arrange the Quran, right? And then those who desire to memorize the Quran. So you see the next few points, right? That's what we'll be mentioning, right? Only for those who desire. Right? If they have no interest, if it's very hard on them, don't force them on it. Okay. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallam. Allahumma anfa'na ma 'allamtana wa zidna ma yanfa'una wa zidna 'ilman ya rabbal alamin. الفاتحة نرزقنا علما نافعا والخاص المقبول ورسول الكتاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وإلى معلمين مشايخنا حضر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر الذين آمنوا بالصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الحمد لله.